Hey everybody, this is Danelle here at Networkchain. Hope this finds you doing well. Today we're going to go over some of the bigger news stories over the past week. And of course, let's go ahead and start with the cryptocurrency market update. You can see Bitcoin still ranging in that around $110,000 range. It's currently just under 110,000, down about 1.44% over the past week. Ethereum hasn't quite been able to crack back up above 4,000, currently trading at $3,870. We have BNB down 2.55%, Solana down nearly 4% at $185. Dogecoin, the largest meme coin of them all, currently down 4.68%, just under 19 cents. Then you have Cardano at 60 cents, rounding out the top 10. Now taking a look at the Bitcoin chart, you can see that Bitcoin is basically staying in that range between 109,000 to around all-time highs of 124, 125,000. And we're seeing that it hasn't been able to break above this level and close above the level. So we're still seeing that we're getting rejected at that all-time high level, but we're not going too much further down below this line. You can see if it does, it would be a wick down, but then pull right back up and close above this 109, 110 level. So we could potentially see this as an accumulation range. We don't know how long this could be. We still have, obviously the possibility of more downside if we don't see Bitcoin coming back towards these all-time high levels, or it could just continue to stay in this range, or of course move up. So we're going to look to see what happens. Obviously, no one knows what the future holds, but we definitely, look at past results to see, or at least just to give us an idea of where Bitcoin could go. We do know that the year after the Bitcoin mining rewards are cut in half, Bitcoin does multiples and does an all-time high. We have done that this year. We did do all-time high. The last Bitcoin halving was in April of 2024. So we have seen that at least stay in place. But now people are speculating that we may not have this so-called 4-year cycle again, which we've pretty much been going through the last few cycles, where the last 3 cycles, the last 12 years basically, where the year after the halving, Bitcoin would do multiples, reach all-time highs, and kind of reach and go into that next level. Of course, we've also seen in the couple years after that there's a downturn, and that Bitcoin has had upwards of 80% drawback. So we're waiting to see, now that we're starting to see more adoption, more institutions coming into Bitcoin, a larger inflow going into those ETFs as well, since they were launched, that we may not see those 80% drawdowns. Now, it's still definitely a possibility. Obviously, macroeconomic factors always play a role. Black swan events always play a role. When you look at, the pandemic and things of that nature, people may want to just get out of risk assets, period, when we have those type of situations. So it's not out of the question. So definitely make sure you do your due diligence when it comes to investing in Bitcoin. It's still extremely volatile, but with volatility can come high rewards, but you really have to know what you're doing. We are holders, also known as hodlers, along with many others in the Bitcoin community. So we basically buy, hold, and don't plan on selling anytime soon. But obviously everyone's different, and it's up to you to choose what you choose to do. But obviously we want to continue to bring you what's going on in the market every week here on YouTube. As you can see, that the Bitcoin monthly returns just ending in October last week, we saw that October ended in the negative at around 3.69%. So you can see for the previous 6 years, we saw that October was a positive month where Bitcoin would have a positive return, and we're seeing that this is not the case this past October of 2025. But now we are in a new month, so we shall see what November brings. The last time that we had a negative month, and it was around the same amount, we had a very negative November. So hopefully in this circumstance we will not see a repeat of what happened in 2018. So obviously time will tell, but we are in a totally different market now when you look at what's going on with Bitcoin, with digital assets. Just generally speaking, the industry is continuing to grow worldwide and being intertwined into traditional finance. So it's definitely a lot different now in 2025, with it being over $2 trillion asset. as to where Bitcoin was in 2018. So it definitely has continued to mature over time. So obviously we don't know what's going to happen, but we definitely see that Bitcoin has grown obviously in value as well as in sentiment around the world. So we'll continue to keep you posted as we move forward. Now, one big piece of news that came out, just generally speaking, from the cryptocurrency asset industry is that Solana, they had US spot ETFs go onto the New York Stock Exchange this past week. They had their debut and did extremely well. Bitwise's B-Sol as well as Grayscale's G-Sol hit the market, and in less than 5 days of trading, you saw BitSol come in with 70 million of inflows on the first day, and they added another 130 million over the next 2 trading days, with an cumulative net inflow of almost 200 million for the past week. And Grayscale did a lot less in inflows than Bitwise offering, but a lot of that has to do with their fee. They have a 0.35% fee and a 0.2% fee. So also that's another thing to make sure that you be mindful of when you're investing in any ETF, whether it be a digital asset ETF or an equity ETF. They do have fees, and so usually you have to understand that there's going to be an amount of money that comes out basically from that holding that goes toward that fee to pay these issuers. So that's something definitely keep in mind. But this is a strong debut, and we've seen the Bitcoin ETFs basically break records and how well that it's done since it was released out into the market. Ethereum ETFs have definitely picked up over the last several months as well. So we're definitely seeing hundreds of millions and billions of dollars when it comes to Bitcoin flow into these ETFs. So we're seeing that, the breadth of the digital asset market being intertwined into the traditional finance system continues to broaden out. And we also know that there are other ETF filings that are on deck at the SEC waiting for approval when it comes to XRP, when it comes to even some of the meme coins and other tokens as well. Other smart contract platforms also have ETF applications on the SEC's desk. So we'll continue to keep you posted on that if we hear more about which ones could be coming onto market sometime soon. Also, just a quick note that the Bitcoin white paper was released publicly on October 31st of 2008. So 17 years ago. Now we celebrate the 17-year anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper. The first transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain happened in January 3rd of 2009. But this was the white paper that was released by Satoshi Nakamoto, who is now obviously legend at this point. And so this was the new revolution when it comes to finance and self-sovereignty and now optionality with finance. And it is something that has infiltrated the entire world, and we're seeing it grow in popularity. And it definitely has some technicality with this paper, but for the most part, it can be read and digested. It may take a few times, but it definitely has some very interesting points with regards to why it is important to have the ability to be able to make peer-to-peer payments without the need of a trusted third party. It gives you that sovereignty. It gives you that ability to have and hold value without any outside authority having any say with regards to what you are able to do with it. And now looking at the assets ranked by market cap, you can see gold is still at the very top. It actually reached a price of around $4,300, an all-time high per ounce. It's now made a little bit of a pullback, currently at around $28 trillion. And we see that NVIDIA has been in the news lately. They had a conference in Washington, D.C. last week that went over really well, and they are continuing to climb up in the ranks, and they actually traded above a 5 trillion market cap for a period of time last week. So we would not be surprised if we get back up there sometime soon. They still have yet to report their earnings. Some of the other big tech companies also risk on assets for a lot of investors. Apple and Microsoft, as well as Google and Amazon, all reported last week, and generally speaking, they had very good earnings and have done pretty well over the last couple of days since they reported those earnings. So we see that Bitcoin is still in the mix, still in the top 10, currently trading at the 8th spot at $2.1 trillion. So it's actually not a bad thing to see that Bitcoin, despite it not being at all-time highs like people would have liked to have seen again in October, the fact that it's still, staying in that $100,000 range, even, despite certain news events or news announcements that come out over the last several months, it's been able to stay atop of that level. So we'll continue to see and keep you posted on what happens here with Bitcoin. But of course, we look forward to linking up with you soon on the network chain. Make sure to check us out here on X as well as on IG. We post there nearly every day. Hope you take care and have a great start to your week. Until next time, bye-bye.